Welcome to Wellness Radio with Dr. Jeanette-Gallagher as your host. Her show discusses topics of health, wellness, and spirituality, and is about discovering your place in this great universe, from your cells to the cosmos. Along with her guest, in casual conversation, she strives to ask the difficult questions that may be holding you back from a vibrant life, and shares new ideas that may inspire you to make a change in your life that you only can see in your dreams. And now, here is Dr. Jeanette-Gallagher.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Wellness Radio. This is Dr. Jeanette-Gallagher, and it's a pleasure to have you with us this evening. Tonight, we are going to be talking about our light, our source energy, that which our frequency we are beaming across the eons. How are we connected? Who are we? What is this human story all about? And where are we going? What is this all about? Many times over the past few years, I've had people say, we are going from the third to the fourth dimension and blah, 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 blah. And I was saying, story. I'm in the 23rd. I wish y'all would hurry up. Come on, come on, come on. I've been holding the door open forever. Which dimension, energy frequency, are you beaming out? Are you stuck in a story? Are you stuck in a manhole? Or perhaps you're still in the darkness? Others say, I'm in the light. I'm good to go. But let me tell you this story. And then they go off on a human dogma, and they tell you all about the human story where they're still tethered to. How do we navigate our days, our light, our soul essence? That is what we'll be talking about today. My guest is Catherine Shainberg. Her book is The Kabbalah of Light, Ancient Practices to Ignite the Imagination and Illuminate the Soul. Catherine, thank you so much for joining us today. It's such a pleasure to have you with us, to dance with us in the ethers. I so needed a kindred soul today.
Well, I am glad to be there with you and to be able to dance with you, I hope.
Oh, I'm so glad to have you. I think, sometimes when we have these conversations, it's like we feel drained. We feel like we can't get up. We can't keep going. But when we dance in the ethers and our true energy frequency connects, don't you think we are limitless? We are just, as I've always said, throw some glitter up into the air and watch it sparkle with the sun. Isn't that how light we hope to feel?
Well, we are completely limitless, and we can find that out just by looking inside our bodies. I have a little exercise that consists of just going into your thumb and entering into the thumb and becoming just that space inside the thumb. And when we do that, and if somebody's doing it now listening to us, you're going to see that your thumb starts growing and growing and growing and growing and becoming huge like the universe. And so I believe that we have the tools to remember that we're really made of this vast space and the stars in the firmament.
It is so exciting, Catherine. Recently, I was speaking to some astrophysicists, and we were just going back and forth about quantums and quarks and, those energies of the universe. And it was such a delightful kind of talk. Yet, I think sometimes people get stuck. But this is who I am. This is what I am. And they're banging on their leg, and they're saying, this is my story. Here's my pain. Here's my hurts.
But, I see the world and each person's world as a huge tapestry. I call that a dream field. It's like a vast cauldron or tapestry that holds all of our images and our stories. And people think that they're stuck with that, but they're not. You can unweave the tapestry. You can unweave it, saying, well, I don't want this dark space in my tapestry. I'd like to unweave it and then start choosing different colors. And as we do that, lo and behold, it changes not only our emotional life, but our physical life, meaning that the pains that we have start getting a little better or much better or completely gone.
Right.
So I think that we are actually co-creators of our own tapestry. And we need to enter into it and to take care of it, to deal with it like we do in modern life, like we do in everyday life, right?
It's so super interesting you said about the tapestry, Catherine, because so many people will say, but I am my ancestors, and I am this, and I am that, and they get stuck in that, and, and I've always shared, probably for over a decade now on this radio show, I said, your soul is an energy source. I look at it as a ball of glitter, and it's on this trajectory, and all of a sudden it intersects a perpendicular energy that is an ancestral lineage, and that's when you're born, and you, as an avatar, download in your essence the story of that line that you've project onto, and then that becomes the story that you project. But in essence, we say also, too, people say, well, I've had these past lives. My soul has this, my soul has that. I said, yes, because that was the trajectory of the soul essence that you're bringing with you. But when you intersect all of these different ancestral lines many times, over your eons of existence, it's that little pieces of brokenness or baggage or story that seems to be stored somewhere within our soul energy frequency. And now that we're in the year 2022, we're saying, I'm going to go on a shaman journey. I'm going to heal that part of mine, honor it, and it'll be cleared. I'm going to go into my past life. I'm going to clear that. I'm going to go into my future self, and I'm going to join it together with me. So in essence, do you think, Catherine, in this time frame now, we are becoming the energy more and more and less of all of that stuff that had been accumulating for eons?
Oh, I do. I think that we are really at a turning point now. And
yes.
The physicists are in line with the mystics in understanding that it's all energy. And
yes.
So the whole of humanity is gathering, I think, now to begin to understand that I can just put my finger out and change that little shape that is blocking something. Change it so that the energy can flow. There's nothing wrong in thinking that I can change my ancestry. The ancestry is there to be changed. In fact, I believe that there is no past or future. There's just the now. And so the now has vast dimensions that we could call the 5th century before the Common Era or in 2059, right? It's all the same, and we can correct it because it's all energetic flow that happens now. So if I have a form that has created a particular illness down the ancestral line, it's my privilege to be able to change that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that I've just had a dream that showed me something I'm unhappy in the lineage. I also can do what we call in Kabbalah tikkun, which is a repair. Mm-hmm. I'm simply repairing it so that the field becomes more and more energetically vibrant and dynamic. So I don't need to hold on to the fact that in the family there's been this and this and this happening for generations. The pattern is repeating, and I can see the pattern repeating through the lineage, but it's just a repetitive dream, and the way I repair repetitive dream is responding to its necessity. So I change the form, and everything changes in my life.
So how about a question there, Catherine? Let's say people will say, but then my body didn't respond in perfection when I set out to do that. So let's say if there was a disease in a lineage and you truly did the energy work, as your energy self, but let's say the disease still continues within your human vehicle. How does that relate?
Well, think of it as many, many layers of an onion. Mm-hmm. And in fact, it's the old sages say if you peel the onion at night, the next morning you're dead. So we have to go slowly. So we take off that first layer that shows a disease, but maybe behind that there's another story that's hidden that needs to be cleared up, and maybe another one. And one day, if you persevere, it's gone. And a new configuration happens. So we have to be patient, because in this world we happen to live in time and space.
Right.
Whether time and space truly exists, in our reality we live in time and space, and so we have to go through the process, the patient process of dissolving forms that no longer serve us and no longer serve the lineage. And I believe that it's truly a magnetic connection in the blood, so that if I change that form in my ancestral pattern, I'm actually helping to change the forms in the whole family system.
Yes, and you know what I think is so vitally important too, Catherine, is sometimes people do a lot of releasing and clearing, detoxing and purging and blah, 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 blah. But I've always said when you do that, you immediately need to honor, thank the energies for its presence, thank you for all the, that you're releasing and letting go. And then the most important part is to fill in the space with your own unconditional love energy, because if you don't fill it in, there's going to be a void there. And if you do fill it in, that's where your creation of the new tapestry comes about, correct?
Absolutely. I mean, there's no neutral space on the inside. So the work on the inside consists of, if you don't do the work, it's going to do it for you, or it's going to do it negatively for you. So definitely, if I change the form, one of the great advantages of working with the original language, which is the language of images, is that if I change a shape, let's say I water what looks like a dead tree, and it starts to regrow, that regrowth, I can see it. So I'm already filling the space with a new and a healed image. So all of the work that I do consists really of working with the revelation, if you want, of I've changed that form. Let's say I unblocked this fountain, and now water flows out, clear waters, and there's rainbow in the water, and those images are so powerful. They feed us. We're fed by our images all the time. We're made of those images, of the great flow of life, which is the forms, right? The imaginal forms that then become, of course, the nature that we know, that we live in and are of, right? So when we repair those images, they will organically become something healthy and good and filled with love.
And you know what I think was I loved about your book, Catherine? Again, the book is The Kabbalah of Light, as you shared in the beginning about your story. And you said about the vacant lot opposite your house. It's so interesting. I always reference back to when I grew up, there was a lot next door to our home, except it was a cemetery. And I would always go in there and lay down next to the stones, because our house had so much violence and stuff. And I would go over there, and pretty much that was my comfort space, was with spirits. And, at nighttime, the demons and those other things would come out, and because I would always look out and see the darkness, the things moving around and all. But I think also, too, the idea is that sometimes people will say, I've had experiences with energy before. I've seen ghosts or angels, or I have felt something move through me, and I knew it was a spirit or something. And they get scared, and they aren't ready or willing to open up their subconscious, their unconscious aspects of themselves, to say there's something more other than that which they can lay out on the kitchen table in front of them and think of that as their reality. What are your thoughts on that? Because you have millions of exercises in your book to be able to open up that space and time.
Right. Well, I mean, for me, and I hear from you too, it was always there. Mm-hmm. I always lived in that world where the angels were all around, and the people who died went up to heaven, and I took them up to heaven, right?
Right.
And I did this work since I was a tiny child. My first memories are of doing that, of taking care of other people and their spirit. So, right. But I did find that I was accused a lot as a child of being a liar. Mm-hmm. But I persevered because I knew I wasn't. I just knew they couldn't see what I saw.
Right.
So I could see what was happening around people, and I'm sure you can too.
How many times have you ever said, "Don't you see that? Can't you hear that?" I feel like I still do that to this day. I'll be having a conversation or something, and I'll say, "Don't you see that? Didn't you see that? Don't you hear that?"
Exactly. Yes. And it's very shocking to people. But it's there in the atmosphere. You know, the man who says to me, "How come you just call this woman by this name, and it's not my wife, it's my mistress?"
Yeah.
I don't know, but it's in your field, so so I pick it up, I read it in your tapestry. And it's I try not to do that with people who don't come to work with me, but when they come to work with me, then they're there to do the work.
Right. Do you think that perhaps also, too, Catherine, even by writing your book and us talking today, even if people don't come for the work, we are opening doors. We are seeding the universe, so to speak, and we are kind of nourishing the light along its path in those that might be afraid. It's sort of like if people are standing on the edge of the boat and they're saying, "I can't get off, and I have a picture on my banner on my website. It's my hand extending, but all these little glistening little light reflections off the end of my hand. Don't you think, in essence, that's where many of us are? So I would say to those who are stuck or not sure, start looking for the little glitter path, the little sparkles of water, the little energy focus, or maybe a ray of light in other people."
What makes you happy? Yeah, what makes you happy? People forget that happiness is a practice. Mm-hmm. We need to pursue happiness. People don't pursue happiness. They pursue their unhappiness. It's something to talk about, but happiness is it's all around us. It's in the light in the sky. It's in the shadows in the trees. It's in the sound of the birds. But I always tell people, let's start with something completely natural. You go to bed, you go to sleep, you're looking into the darkness, and lo and behold, light appears. You're having a dream. It's something so spectacular and amazing that we can have a dream, that we create light. It's not light from the sun or from the stars. It comes from looking into our own being. And suddenly, the firmament appears, lights appear. We are being taught by our own practice of gazing inward. And that's the night dream. Everybody does it. It's not something strange. Or people think it's strange these days because so much silliness has been said about dreaming.
Right.
That it was garbage of the mind, or it's repressed. It's none of that. It is truly my looking at my own inner self and being rewarded with the truth, which is that I'm made of light.
Yes. When I do dreams, it's pretty much out of body. I call it, the parallel universe or another trajectory where it's whatever. Because when I close my eyes instantly, I'm gone someplace, And I think sometimes people say, "Oh, well, I have to know and define And I must know everything about my dreams, because otherwise I will be missing something, or I will be doing something wrong, or it's so vitally important. When in essence, when I wake up, it's like, it was a moment in time, just as we breathe, and it's here and it's gone. Sometimes people are trying so hard to capture things and make it as part of their identity that they miss just the energy transformation of the experience in the first place, right?
Right. I always tell my students, just trust that the inside is always going to provide you with something new and exciting.
Mm-hmm.
It's always going to provide you. That the idea of fixing an image is, in fact, fixing a pain or fixing an illness, right? So fixing is, or calling it an archetype. I'm this archetype. Well, you're not. You're multiple different things. You're so fluid. And people feel they need to fix because they haven't practiced enough looking inward, and so they don't trust that it's always going to be creative and bubbling like a great fountain inside of them. And if they do trust it, if they really practice it and they start trusting it, then amazing things can happen. Their life becomes easy and fluid.
Do you think that in essence, when you say about your life becomes amazing and fluid, it's because you also, too, are letting go of the need to have a concrete story that you have to hold on to. In other words, sometimes people will say, but I need to have, let's use money. That's always something that's easy. Yeah. I need to have money because I have to have a house and I have to have a car so I can get around, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden you go on this journey and you say, you know what? I can traverse time in my dreams. I can do telepathy. I can help affect energy healing across the internet. I can go outside and see energy flowing, and I can grow a plant, just from a piece of something that was growing on my counter. I can, and you keep going on and on. So in other words, you see potentials that are different versus the human that I have to have these things to fill that density space. I mean, even before we were doing this show today, I went outside for a few minutes. There was a bird. It was a different sound of a bird. It kept calling me. I got up and I captured its voice for like 10 seconds. And then I looked down at the plants and I took like about 20 pictures of the top of the plants. And all I could hear was the word, there's so many potentials if you just look for them. Can you see them?
Absolutely.
And I went, oh, that was my message for today. It had nothing else to do with the other blah, blah, blah that we would normally go through our day. But that was my day, and that was all I needed, right?
But you know what is so interesting is that people get caught up in wanting to, as we say, fixate. And when they do fixate, they're blocking the fluid, dynamic change of life that always brings us where we need to go.
Yeah.
So if I can just walk outside and look at the plant and water the plant, and suddenly the message comes, and my day is made because I have encountered happiness.
Yes. What about the idea when so many people are meditating now and going into that dream state and taking time and really experiencing and releasing a lot of this old story? And someone had said to me at one time, they said, what did you do today? And I said, I sat. I said, no, what did you do? I said, I sat. And I kind of went down. I said, I'm just going to go along this storyline. And they said, oh, so you wasted the whole day and just sat there. I said, no, I was busy all day. I sat. And they could not understand that I was doing so much work that day just in my energy self. They couldn't get that. They just saw it as wasted time. So that's a pretty big divide for some people.
this is very big, but it makes me think of something that happens to me all the time. I forget everything.
Yes.
And people say, you forget. Well,
yeah.
It's just not important, right?
Yeah.
So I forget. I forget everything. So it's like, it's the same as sitting. I feel it's the same. My mind becomes clear and clean, and there are none of these details.
Yes.
But what is very interesting is that I can sit in front of a student I haven't seen in 10 years and remember everything. It's like picking in the universe what you need to know at the time you need to know it, so you don't need to be encumbered. Like you don't need to do a lot of things because we're here, we're going to go, and we're going to come back, and we're going to do something more. It really doesn't.
You know, one time I had gone to the grocery store. It was around the holiday, and I said, I wanted to make cookies, Christmas cookies, like I used to do with the kids and blah, 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 and make these boxes of all these assorted cookies and give them to everybody. And I really didn't have anyone to give them to, but I said I wanted to do it anyway. I wanted to go through the process, as a memory. So I went to the grocery store. I played out the memory. I had a full basket of all of the things that I needed to make all these cookies and everything. I was listening to the music, Christmas music on the store, it was playing. And when I got up to the front, all of a sudden I just stood there for 2 or 3 minutes, and I just kind of just took a breath and just stepped away from where I was. And I picked up my hands and I left the store. And I went, oh, wow, that was so cool. And they said, what do you mean? You went to do this and they didn't do that? What's your problem? Blah, blah, blah. And, I said it was fabulous. I walked through the memory and I released the need to have to repeat it to feel connected. And I was awesome. Right. And it was like the best experience ever. So I think sometimes when people start filtering through their feelings and their emotions and these memories, they get stuck at that door of it's hard. And they forget if they can just stand there with it and walk through it and say, awesome, thank you, that was awesome. And then pick up their hands and walk
Sounds
away,
awesome
right?
To me, too. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it is, for a lot of people, a strange life if one doesn't have things to do, right?
When I see all of these homes with all the people in there and they label them as dementia or Alzheimer's, I was always wishing that they would have like a big circle and all of the rooms would have a different decade. And when you walked into it, you could pick up some clothes in there or some food in there or music in there or billboards or posters. And it would be like walking into a different decade and just let the people wander through all the different decades. Isn't that what you and I are doing in our memories? We're walking through our other lifetimes like that?
But I think it's a great idea for Alzheimer patients to do that. The way that I work with them is that I take their photos from their past and play with the photos. Right. Or let them play with the photos. Because it brings some aliveness to them. And I do think we do go through, time to me it's like a stacked tower, and we can go through levels of the tower and be there at the same time, really. So I can be 1 years old now as I talk to you.
Yes.
Or much older. I'm much older.
Right. But what gives us, I think that if a source energy or God or whatever you want to call it, what gives us the right to put a label on them and saying there's something wrong with them, when in essence, what if God or the source energy or whatever is showing us through them that you can live in many dimensions in one time?
Well, I think it just is a form of security. People don't feel secure. I think there's a way to teach people to become secure. And the only way that I believe is the right way is to look inside, because the inside always shows us the source or the roots of ourselves, right? So I think people don't have, they've lost a lot of the core beliefs Many people went to church or to synagogue or to the mosque, right? So they had a way of centering themselves or holding on to images and sensations, smells that reconnect them to something deeper in themselves. But today we don't have that.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very big problem in everyday life. So people go on the internet and look at all sorts of terrible images that don't nourish them at all. And I think we need to help that, right?
I think we assist them by showing them we can walk them home. We can walk them in the higher vibration. We can assist them as being their guides and their companion with compassion and unconditional love. To me, that phrase right there, there's nothing more. I don't see anything more. I don't know anything more. That's all I see. And even when patients would come to me at the end of life, or souls would come to me, or spirits, and they would come to me and, I mean, like pretty much almost jump my body to be able to say I'm getting ready to die. And I would be, okay, cool, fantastic, awesome. Let's throw those suitcases to the side and let's get going. And we'd be dancing, and going through this, let's walk our souls home. We're good. But yet our human story, this like brain, we want to sometimes say, can we dissect it? Because it's so stuck in pain and guilt and shame and all of that other stuff. And I'm like, there is none. Even when my son, who was trying to commit suicide 13 times, I said to him on the last one, I said, invite fear in. Come on, have a party with it. Go in a white room with your therapist, nothing else, not even a chair, and welcome fear in and ask it what it's doing here. What does it dance? What does it look like? He never did it again. So I think the idea is can we face all of this in this time and reality, in this dimension, 2022 and beyond? Can we learn how to do this and navigate this and be, just as I share and you share in your book, The Kabbalah of Light, and as your own self, shining light, can we share how to be as free as you and I are sharing?
I believe that everybody can be that way. I believe that we can look into the eyes of a serial killer and see his core, and that changes his life.
Yeah.
And so I was actually sitting with some friends yesterday at dinner, and they were having a conversation with the waiter. And after they finished the conversation, they said, good thing, a conversation that changed this young man's life. And I thought that's absolutely true. They had opened up some windows, some doors for him that he hadn't thought about before. And I think we can do that, right? In very simple ways. We can open up doors and open up perceptions that change a person's life and give them the dynamism and the light that they need to continue on their journey, right?
Right.
So, I think that for those who are already moving in that way, I think that it helps other people because they feel it. Even if they don't know what it's about, they feel it.
Yes. And I think the purpose of it today, when you and I are talking, is to let others know if you are in this higher space and time, please join Catherine and I in sharing your stories. Join us together, because as we collectively bring in that higher energy, it can only increase the light. To those who are just new on the path, we are sharing tips of inspiration and guidance. To those that have not seen it and they don't know what it's about, we're sharing compassion, saying it'll be okay, and welcome in your feelings and emotions. So I think what we are trying to do is sharing the patterns of an openness of now our soul and spirit as being the commander and the moment in time, versus saying that our human has to engage in this lower density, lower vibration, or it will not survive. What we are saying is that we are all eternal. We all have unconditional love. And how do you nourish that seed? Isn't that what we want to do, is nourish the seeds?
And it's all in us. It's not something complicated. It's something easy, normal, fluid. It's about happiness, really. Look in, and the inside knows exactly what it wants. Even if the outside seems to be so bleak, there is a place inside of us that remembers happiness. And if we go there, it's going to open those doors and allow those people to start moving in that direction. So I think it's very simple.
Yes. You know, I think in closing, we look back at our life and we say, but I didn't do it, or I didn't this, or I didn't that. And I know you could share your story. My story was I was a dental hygienist for 25 years, and everybody says, well, that was weird and blah, 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 and what was that all about? And I look back in retrospect and I said, no, I wasn't a dental hygienist. That was my position I filled. What I was doing was I connected with over 500,000 souls. That was my position. Right. That was my service. Because I don't remember them. I looked straight into their eyes for exactly 5 to 10 seconds before I started cleaning their teeth. Other than that, nothing else mattered. But boy, did I hit walls. We don't want you here. You know, you're not the right fit. Every single one of my deans in colleges, you know, I've got like 4 degrees. Every single one of them, the deans would take me to the side and say, you don't belong here. You don't fit here. You need to leave. And I didn't leave, of course. But they had felt that dissonance within themselves, that my energy and my light was so bright. Don't you think that, can you share in closing, Catherine, how you've had those experiences too?
Well, I have, and I had it a lot as a child, where I was accused of, lying and inventing and fantasizing, and so I learned a lesson of not hiding, but actually my teacher once said to me, hide your light under a bushel.
Yes.
And that was fine when I was growing into my work and my power, if you want, right? Mm-hmm. Now I don't bother, because I think that it's very, very simple. And so if I'm simple and just direct, it works.
Yes. So
I think I had to learn to get rid of the fear of encountering the others who would say, this is crazy, you're crazy,
right.
You don't know what you're talking about. And this is all gone. I'm not afraid anymore.
Yeah.
But I was for a time, and I had to learn to work with that.
Yes. As I've had so many death threats in the past, let me tell you, even up till 20 years ago, and it seemed quite often, and I said, oh my gosh, it's okay. It's only part of a past life thing. We'll clean this and heal this, and we'll be good to go. So I think sometimes people will say, but, and I'll say, oh, fabulous. Please list all of your buts, and we'll look at the list when you come in next time. Isn't that what we want?
Absolutely. Never resist resistance, as they say.
Yes. I think that's so important. Yeah. Right. Absolutely.
So what does it look like, this resistance? Let's take a look at it and let's embrace it.
Yeah.
And then,
it's sort of, it's like fabulous. How big can it be? Can you let it grow? Let's pour some water on it and see what it looks like, right?
Exactly. We interact with it, which is so much fun, really.
Yes, absolutely. Well, Catherine, it was such a pleasure to have you with us to Dance in the Ethers today.
Oh, thanks so much. It was fun for me, too.
Absolutely. Can you share with the listeners how to find out more information about your work? That would be wonderful.
Well, there's a new website. It's called theschoolofimages.org. And I think it's been cleaned up so that you get a sense of how to look at the work and find the work and maybe even participate if that's of interest. And there are gift exercises, so one can get to do a few exercises and find out if it's your path. There are many paths in the world. Mm-hmm. Once you've found your path, you need to keep to it, though, because that's the practice. So I hope that some of your listeners, will find, or all of your listeners will find their paths, and maybe some of you will come to the School of Images.
Very good. Well, Catherine, it is such a pleasure to have you. We thank you so much for sharing your energy with us today, and it's been such a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Jeanette.
Thank you. If you'd like to find out more information about Catherine Shainberg, again, the book is The Kabbalah of Light. Please do click on the link on the bottom of today's show page to go directly to her website for more information. And definitely check out all of her resources on that page, because it is about being able to see what just turns over a little piece of glitter in your mind or your thoughts, what opens the window and the door, and how might you be welcoming to allow some new, fresh energy to come in and say thank you so much for everything that has held you back in the past. It's about being able to say, I can breathe again, and how free will that be? Thank you so much for joining us today. This is Dr. Jeanette-Gallagher, and until tomorrow, have a great day.
Today we discussed many life-changing concepts. Who do you turn to, and how do you know what is best when faced with a health crisis? Dr. Jeanette is a patient advocate. She listens to the patient, the doctors, and the family, clarifies the health issues and concerns, then helps the patient make the best choices going forward. If you would like help implementing change into your life and health, we can talk and see where you are stuck and how to improve the quality of your life. Check the link on the bottom of today's show page or visit dr.jeanette-gallagher.com to schedule a phone appointment today.